we have our app. One thing we probably should do is test it through a command line to make sure this is going to work. So let's just do this real quick. So we just want Python app py, and we're going to pass on a file of settings, and this is our settings properties, and go. Okay. Now we can see that it created our files. We're good. Now I have the folder structure open over here. I have data. I'm okay with that. Let's just open this one just to make sure. Okay, we're good. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to close the project because that's going to get really confusing for you. And I'm going to delete this. Let's get some real estate here. Okay, so now I'm going to get some real estate here, and I might have to cut that, but that's okay. And we're going to delete this. And I'm going to have to clean up a lot of this to do our deployment. The first thing we want is Docker. So let's go to our dashboard. And now, if you remember at the beginning, I said, so we got SQL, a couple alerts. I just want to make sure volumes, there's a fine, and containers. Okay, I only got the one. So if you remember at the beginning, we said that the customer has a limitation on the fact that they have to be a lower environment Linux machine. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to run this Docker. I'm going to mount my drive, volumes, passport, source, and this is going to be export underscore data. And there's a comma there. You can't really see it. Comma. Let's see. Can I make this bigger? Will that kind of help? 18. So Docker run, and then we're going to interact with it through the terminal. We're going to mount our source being volumes, passport, source, export data, which is what I got. It's going to be called test on the Linux server. And my platform is a Linux 64 Rocky Linux. So what we're going to do, and I'm running bash. So we're just going to run this in a command line. Everything we're going to do from here on out is in a command line. Now, I know I probably spent a long time for you doing the code. The truth is we did it in a day, less than a day. With breaks. So what we're doing now is we're bringing down this Rocky Linux, and then we're going to connect to it through the terminal. So if I do ls, and I truly hope you can see this because I don't know how to make this any bigger. Shell, I've never really played with it to make it bigger, and I don't want to waste too much time trying to make it bigger just because I can always do this again. So, but yeah, I was hoping it'd be like in Putty, I can say text to make bigger. But here, I don't really know how. Will Zoom work? Oh, nope. That just zooms up the window. Okay, so we're inside here. And if I do cd test ls, there is my link to my code. I kind of wanted to go one deeper, but that's okay. So we can do export. Is it there? Yes, it's there. That's fine. So with that, we want to remove some stuff. So let's do ls. CD into data. Make sure it's empty. Ls, it is. Our headers, our settings, and our setting file is going to have to change. So let's open this up and just look at it. Now we are joined to that, so we've got to be careful now. Our path, settings, landscapes should be okay because where it's going to run is going to be inside here. And the data. So if it errors out, we'll know one thing about the path. So we've got to install some binaries. Here's where it gets to be fun. I don't need that open anymore. Where's my notepad? Bam. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is install Python. Okay, paste. And, oops, that didn't work out the way I want to. Yum, install Python 3. And this is a video, if you need to take a picture of this, or maybe I'll just export the history file for you. That's not a big deal. So do we want, yes, Python, please? And yes. And what I was getting at, this is going to take like no time if we do it correctly. Now, if you remember, we created an environment, virtual environment for our Python. That command is just Python 3 -m, and then the name that you want it to be. And in this case, we want it to be called VM. Now, if you look, ls, yep, we now have a VM folder, and that's what I was looking at. So if I go over here and look, oh, it shouldn't be inside data. Ah, caramba. All right, so we're inside data. So we're just going to remove that real quick. This won't take long if I don't get in a rush and screw stuff up. So now let's go up one, and let's run the same command. Python, there we go. Now, we've got it open so we can see it happen over here, okay? So there it is. and it's gonna start with our Python, okay, and our pip and all that. But we've got to install these other packages. But now what we've got to do is we've got to make it activated, okay? And you'll see what that means in a minute. The big thing is pay attention to my command line. Notice the beginning is just root or whatever. So if I say source bin activate, that's going to activate. Oops, dang it, did the same thing. I need this one. Control C. Okay, so now I have my virtual environment. So now let's install some packages. We need requests, remember, because we're doing API calls. Okay. And we need pandas, because I talked about that the whole time, using that for a shell script. One thing I noticed is when I go further, it starts erroring because it wants me to upgrade pip. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Pip install -- upgrade pip. Go for it. Okay, and that's going to upgrade the pip inside of our VM. Okay, it still says it. That's okay. We'll figure that out later. We want this XML to dictionary because remember I talked about how cool that was. And again, all these are on the pip website, or you can just Google them. Beautiful Soap 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that one. And it's going to take the package that goes with this Python. So if I do Python 3 minus version, we're using 368, which equals low enough for what the customer supports. Now we need to do the XML because that's for Beautiful Soap. Now there is an XML package, but you want the LXML, okay? And then that's about it. So what we can do, we're going to talk about this in a few seconds. What we're going to do now is just test it. So let's do lsltr. Well, I could just do lsl. And then Python 3 app py file settings go. Okay, there you go. So it worked. Now what that did was create some data, and let's just open this up. Perfect. Now I will tell you, if you have your IDE running while you're doing this, it throws all kind of errors because it's like, dude, whoa, what are you doing? And you're adding all these binaries and stuff. It really confuses Xcode on the Windows machine. So let's get rid of that. It's just easier to do it here. So cd into data, and we're going to remove everything there. That removes all those files inside there. And let's go ahead and remove our app log. Okay, because I want a fresh log. Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay, so that's done. That's why I do the -F -R so it doesn't ask me. Now for the next thing is this pandas installer. Now this was a pain, not pandas, I'm sorry, pyinstaller. This was a pain to get the right version. The reason we're having to do it through Docker, through this Linux AMD 64 is because this will create a binary for you. You're going to see it's an installer. On Windows, it will create an exe. On Linux, it creates a shell. Now, the problem is, if I try to do it on my machine, it will not respect the architect target because it wants the M series. Damien, close your door. I'm almost done. So I can't do it on an M series, which is what my Mac is. But here, we're having to do on Linux, so we can do this. It was a big pain. And because I'm using an older version of Python, I had to go through different versions to find an error that was happening and then find the right version that didn't error out. To me, the cleanest one was if you do Python, I guess I could type in faster. Python version 3.68. What worked best for me was the 4.10. Okay, so we're going to install that. And that's also the one that complained about the pip not being upgraded, but let's see if it actually works. It says it did, so let's give it a try. Now, if you never use this, you do pyinstaller, point to the app, give it a name. At this point, we'll call it script test. One file means it's going to be one binary file that the customer can run. And then your target architect. Now, there's quite a few of these. There's supposed to be a universal one where it's smart enough to figure it out. There's an AMD, and there's a 64, and I think that's it. But you can Google and see what it is. So let's just, first of all, let me make sure I am in the right folder. I am, because I was looking for the app. And let's just run this. Initializing. Okay, let's just see what happens. So far, we don't have any errors, knock on wood. And if you see what it's doing in the background, it's creating this distributed folder, and it created, of course, this py cache folder, and it should be about done. So now it's creating an archive of that file. Okay, so it says it's done. So let's see what it did. So there is this cache, which you don't need. This is our app. It created this build folder, which has all the binary stuff in it, right? Kind of zipped up. So here's a package, which is kind of cool. And then what it does is it takes that and puts it into a distributed folder here. So there's our one script file. So we don't need anything else besides that. Just to keep it stupid simple, what we're going to do is take this little guy and we're going to copy it up one. And you might have looked at it as like, Tim, this is what you did, you dummy. Because I don't really care, to be honest with you. We're just going to put it up one level for sake of knowing what paths are. Because I'd have to look at my settings file too. So ls, now what is it called? Script test file is settings and settings file. Now let's see if we get the same error. Ah, perfect. And so that gave us data. See, ta-da! And that's all it is for deploying. Now, again, I have notes, you're welcome to take a snapshot of this. Or if you ask me, I'll put it in the little chat thing of YouTube. I've got to clean this up tomorrow. There's like 8 videos I got to go through. Remove some stuff where I kind of just got silent or whatever and kind of clean it up and all that jazz. But the biggest thing is now when you send it to a customer, the only thing, so if I create a new folder and we'll call it run, right? The only thing you need is this. Copy, paste, and then we need our settings files. Copy, paste, and that's it. So if you wanted to do this on a different machine, again, you could use Docker, you can do it in a Windows machine. We did it first in a Ubuntu, and it did kind of work, but then we found out the customer didn't have a Ubuntu. They have a Red Hat, and that's why we had to go with Rocky Linux, because it's the Red Hat version. Yeah, so I hope this was helpful. And at least I hope you got something out of it. I know I was kind of maybe rude or saying I'm not going to teach you Python, but if you have questions about Python, you've seen me in my other videos, just ask me a question. It's just one of those things I've been doing for decades. To me, it comes fairly simple. And again, my best practice, a lot of things, I like classes. This isn't even a clean enough app for me. I would have more folders with more, like my helper files. I'd probably move everything from the app file to a helper file, and then keep that clean and have a true workflow in process, which is my start. But the data itself between all the DA is the same. The Spectrum was a little bit different because the way it comes back as OData. These I was able to bring back as JSON, so they were cleaner. Yeah, so that's kind of it. I hope this was helpful, and I will be talking to you soon.